when I'm in the last phase of my project and in the last phase of my workflow, there's always something that I need to do as a last part of my workflow, and that is doing the finishing touches on my work. In my case, the finishing touches consist of a few things. One of them is to remove any banding that you have left in your image. And another one is to remove artifacts in your image. And if you want to, you can also add a little bit of toning using SilverFX Pro. Well, I'm going to demonstrate that here with this image. I'm going to demonstrate how I remove some banding that I have in my image by using a little bit of exaggerated image to make sure that you can see it on the video. So this is not really my final result, but just an example of an image which has a lot of banding. So to make sure that you can see it on the video as well. So if you take a look at this image, then you would see that there's quite some banding here in the sky. Now it's very easy to get rid of banding like this by using the Add Noise tool in Photoshop in combination with the Grain tool in SilverFX Pro 2. Well, the reason I use both of them is because the Add Noise tool in Photoshop is very effective in removing any banding in any photo, while the Add Grain tool in SilverFX Pro has a very nice look to it. It almost looks like it's very real, very natural. So on one hand, I'm using the Photoshop Add Noise tool to effectively remove all the banding, and I use SilverFX Pro Grain tool to create a nice sort of grain. So I'm going to demonstrate that. I'm going to create a new layer, and then I'm going to filter noise and then add noise. So if you would look at this, and then you have to, if you're working in black and white image, you have to click monochromatic. So take a look at the image and the before and after, then you would see that if I add some grain like this, you can play also with the types of grain, uniform or Gaussian. So it's what you prefer, but I like to use the Gaussian one. So I'm going, it's a little bit too much, I'm going to add a little bit less of grain. Something like this. You can enlarge it to see what the effect is. Well, it's a little bit exaggerated, but this is all because so you can see it in your video. But because usually I would only add 2 or maybe 3% of grain in Photoshop, and absolutely not 11% because that is way too much. So anyway, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to add 11%, and you see that the banding has been removed effectively by adding all the noise in Photoshop. So now I'm going to click OK. So now I have added the noise in Photoshop, and you see that the banding is, well, pretty much gone. So what I do then is to go to next software, SilverFX Pro, and add a little bit of grain to make it look more nice and more natural, just like we had in the film days with this tool, which is called the Grain tool. And usually I would only add only 489 or 480, something like that. You can add a lot more grain by going all the way up there, but that's really way too much. So I suggest that if you add any grain in SilverFX Pro, that you add something between, let's say, 490 and something like 440. That's the usual range that I work in, and to add some grain in SilverFX. But in this case, I'm only going to use, well, something like 469, which should be okay. So I'm going to add this grain on top of the noise that I've added in Photoshop, just to make it look more beautiful and more natural. Now that we have removed bending, I'm going to look at other artifacts that might be present in my image. One familiar type of artifact that you regularly see is the bright white spots that you will see in an image. An artifact like this one, well, it's very easy to get rid of that. First, of course, you need to inspect your image very closely by enlarging it up to 800%. This has been enlarged up to 400%. So make sure that you always inspect your images very, very closely and very accurately as a finishing touch of your project. Anyway, I've detected an artifact here, so it's very easy to get rid of that. Just create a new layer. Then go to your spot healing brush tool, this one. Then make sure that it has the correct size, not too small and not too large. In this case, I'm going to make it, well, 7 pixels large, so it's 7 pixels. And in this case, I'm going to click on content aware, and I always leave that on, and then just click on the artifact, and it's gone. So it's very easy to get rid of that type of artifacts. Another artifact that you will see a lot, especially in architecture images, are the white lines or halos that you see around the building, around the edge of the building. So I'm going to demonstrate how you can remove those artifacts, that type of artifact, very easily in Photoshop. So I'm going to open my architectural image. I'm going to enlarge it, and what you see here is well, the white line or halo that you would see around the edge of a building. Now, that's something that you absolutely don't want in your final result. So what I'm going to do is to go to the selection that I've created earlier on for selecting the sky. And you can use the same selection to get rid of those halos in a very effective and easy way. So I'm going to load selection. Going to load the sky like this. So now I've selected the sky only. I'm going to enlarge it even a little bit more. You can see the white line very clearly. Now in this case I'm also going to use my Wacom tablet, so I can rotate the image quite easily. So it's now in a more natural position for me to get rid of the halos in this case. Well, now what I'm going to do right now is to use the clone tool, the clone stamp tool, and then I'm going to take my pen, my Wacom tablet, and I'm just going to hit the Alt key and select a part of the image that I want to have cloned. In this case, I'm going to use this part of the image. I'm going to release the Alt button. I'm going to clone away the white lines like this. So you don't have to be afraid that you are cloning out parts of the building, because you've already selected the sky only. So you can move freely across the edge of your building and remove all the halos and white lines that you will see in your image. So it's very easy. Something like this. See? Now I'm going to demonstrate this part on, so I'm going to deselect again, and you will see that the white line has been removed very effectively without removing parts of the building, just by an effective use of the selection tool and the selection that you've already created before. The last part, the final part of my finishing touches phase would be to add some toning. And I can add some toning using SilverFX Pro 2, which has quite an excellent toning functionality. I use that only when I feel like it, and if the subject or my type of image lends itself to have some toning. It's a very personal thing, of course, the toning. I'm not quite a fan of it, but I've used it quite a lot in the past. So I'm going to demonstrate how you can use and add some toning in a very good and effective way using Silverfax Pro 2. So this is almost a final image, and I want to have a more warm look to it. So I'm going to go to Nik Software, Silverfax Pro 2, and then wait till the image is loaded. You can find the toning dialog and settings in Silverfax Pro 2 under Finishing Adjustments. So if you open up that one, and then you see all the options that you have here, and one of them is toning, and basically there are a few presets in there, like the neutral preset. You also have the split toners preset, selenium preset, and coffee preset, etc., etc. The one I like to use is just using the neutral preset, and then I'm just going to add some toning manually by moving the strength slider a little bit, like this. If you go all the way up to 60%, then you would see that there's a strong sepia toning in there. Now, what I always do is come up with a toning somewhere between 10% and 20%, which gives a slight warm toning. It's not too emphatic, it's not too exaggerated, but it's really very subtle. And at the same time, you can get rid of some final bending as well, just by adding a little bit of warm toning. So this is what I usually do, just add some toning with Silverfax Pro 2 with the toning functionality. So that's one of the final finishing touches I use in my black and white workflow. Well, these were the basic tools that I use a lot in my black and white workflow. I'm going to demonstrate some more advanced techniques using these basic tools, and I'm going to demonstrate this in my upcoming tutorials, which will cover my complete workflow using the basic tools in combination with the advanced SGM techniques.